Hi there, everybody. My name is Laura, and welcome to the Equestrian Skill Builders Rider Position Show, where we discuss riding position topics and share ideas and exercises to help you and or your riders. If you'd like to improve your riding and training, win more ribbons at your next horse show, and who doesn't like to do that, or generally like other horsey-related stuff, then stay tuned because I think the exercises we're going to share with you today might very well change your riding forever in a good way. Guest hosting with me today is Joie Gatlin. Hi, Joie. How are you doing today?
I'm well. Good morning from California here.
Excellent. So California, your early morning. You've had your coffee or tea?
All set to go. You know, you're in horse show mode. You're up early, and we just came back from Sacramento, so I'm up and at 'em.
Excellent. So Joie is a leading competitor in the national show jumping circuit. She has won the United States Equestrian Team USET medal finals, the RhulenRookie of the Year, as well as several other national championships. Joie has ridden several hunters to Horse of the Year awards, won numerous classes at the Grand Prix level, representing the United States in World Cup competition, and competed in the Olympic trials. Well, congratulations with all that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to do what you love, and I've had some wonderful experiences.
Yeah, and as a member of the West Coast Active Riders European Tour, Joie won several European Grand Prix events and received the Leading Lady Rider Award at Royan in France. Congratulations. That's wonderful. What did that involve?
That was a lot of fun. That show was very special to us. We had a really fun time as a team there, first time. And it was an accumulation of several different open classes and points. So I was very consistent at that show and ended up with the most points of any of the other ladies riding. So I won a beautiful trophy.
That's wonderful. Excellent. So, okay, so we have here, so I don't know who this is. Just kidding, 09. Hello, how are you?
Cute dog.
Cute doggy, yes. And me, I'm Laura. I'm Laura Kelland-May, Equestrian Canada Senior Judge, Hunter, Jumper, Equitation, and Hack, Senior Steward, and Competition Coach Specialist, High Performance Trained. Now, I'd like to remind everybody to comment, and if you have any questions, please ask your questions, because we would like to answer your questions live here today. All right, we're going to tackle some specific equitation points, and Joie has given us some very interesting exercises, and it's something that you could take home and try at home. So stick around for that. Are you ready to get going here, Joie?
Let's go. Hit me with your questions.
Okay, so when you're teaching riding, our instructors, coaches, everybody says heels down, heels down, heels down. Why is heels down so important to riders, and not just for looking good in equitation?
Right. Well, for me, it's a real balance point. You need to have your weight down in your stirrup, your weight down in your heel, and that helps you stay in the middle of your horse. Keeping your weight and your heel equally can help you really stay in the middle of your horse. And when you're beginning, that's very important, because everyone gets a little off balance or something like that. So really, trying to stress keeping your weight in your heel will also help you stay in the middle of your horse. Also, it helps center the rest of you. Your leg is your foundation. Then you have your seat, your upper body, your arms, and your hands. And if you have a nice, strong position with your leg and your heel, it really kind of helps the rest of your position, helps you be able to stabilize your body, keep your arms independent from your body, and again, help keep yourself straight and in the middle. We need to be in the middle of our jumps. We need to be in the middle of our horse. And another thing I find as I've started, when I started jumping bigger and bigger jumps, is that landing in my heel after, a big jump and being able to recover quickly was really, really important. So you want to have it for balance. You want to have it for being in the middle of your horse and being able to land and recover and go on to that next jump.
Really important. And so If you were a rider, let's say, how do you tell if your heels aren't down? For example, there's probably people who ride on their own who don't have somebody watching them. How can they tell if their heels are down or not? What does one symptom of not having your heels down?
I would say that your leg position would get really behind you. If you were up on your toe or your heels were not down, and you had a good balance, your leg would kind of be swinging behind you, maybe over the top of the jumps. You'd be a little, maybe a little one-sided, landing a little one-sided because you land into one stirrup harder than the other. So, a couple tells like that. I would say that if you want to kind of check that, a good thing to do is kind of get your 2-point, and just grab a little chunk of mane, get in that 2-point and push those heels down and really get that leg stretched down around your horse.
Yeah, so the 2-point is the key. And what about some other exercises that people could do to help them get their heels down? You mentioned 2-point. What else could we do for riders?
Well,
so say someone's coming into a lesson with you, and you say, "Oh, this rider's not in the middle of her horse. She doesn't have her heels down. She's." What would you get this rider to do?
I would say at the beginning, I would ask her to get in the 2-point, and I would work a little bit at the walk just to get the feeling of pushing yourself straight up out of the tack and getting yourself to put the weight in the ball of your foot so the heel goes down naturally and you can push your body straight up out of the saddle. And I'd probably have them do that a little bit at the walk, and then we'd go ahead and go into the trot. And being able to do the 2-point in the trot without holding onto your horse's mouth is really what tells you if you have a strong leg, a good lower leg position, and good balance, and your heels are down, holding yourself in the 2-point.
Yes. So here we have something from Kathleen. Any tips or exercises for those days when the stirrup isn't the right spot on? Not quite sure if we understand that. Any exercise for those days when the stirrup isn't the right spot on?
Maybe she means like the stirrup is slipping.
Slipping, maybe. Okay, let's go with that. That's a good one. What are some exercises? I like what you said about not having to balance on the horse's mouth or the reins, like doing the airplane or hands on hips or those type of things.
Right. I think if you're having trouble getting your stirrup in the right spot on your foot. Okay. So the stirrup should be right on the ball of your foot, and it should go just a little bit across your stirrup. I think first of all, make sure your bottom of your boots are clean. Make sure your stirrup pads are clean, that there's not mud and sand and things like that. And actually working in a little 2-point will force you to put the weight down into the ball of your foot. And just practicing that, doing that a little bit in your warm up, doing it a little bit in the walk, and just get the pressure in the ball of your foot. And that's going to help everything go down. The heel go down, the leg go down around your horse, and give you a good, strong foundation.
So you think that people, when they lose their stirrup, Kathleen, maybe you could help us here. Comments. Kathleen, the right spot in your foot. Do you mean, Kathleen, that your your foot is slipping home in the stirrup, or you're losing your stirrup, or what's happening to your foot in the stirrup? So I think if your foot is going home in the stirrup, is that a different thing than if you're losing your stirrups?
Well, you want to make sure that you check your stirrup length. Make sure for whatever you're doing, you have the proper stirrup length. If you're riding on the flat, you can have the stirrup hit just a little bit below your ankle bone, and make sure your stirrups are even. They might not always be even on the holes, 6 and 6 on each side might not be the same. Legs are a little bit different. Horses, a little bit different. So make sure that your stirrup is hitting your leg in the right position. So if you drop your stirrups, they should hit right at your ankle bone. If you want to have a little longer stirrup for flat work or a little shorter stirrup for jumping, you want to just kind of make sure they're even. And maybe the stirrup that she keeps losing is a little bit too long, or, she's just not getting herself in the middle of her horse.
Right. So here's what she says. My foot goes to the outside of the pad and my toe gets squished some days more than others. So
I would just say that make sure, you got your foot just slightly across the stirrup. It doesn't have to be dead straight. You can have your foot just a little bit of an angle across your stirrup. And again, I think most importantly, make sure that you're putting the pressure in the ball of your foot so that it doesn't have the tendency to slide. Make sure you're straight. Make sure you're not kind of riding off to one side and letting that stirrup slip away from you. Make sure that you really have your hips straight and your shoulders straight and you're riding in the middle of your horse.
yeah, exactly. So getting back to the stirrups not being level, do you swap your stirrups left and right and left at all?
I have, yes, because they'll stretch out. You'll stretch your stirrups out if you're a little more dominant in one leg or the other. I have a little bit stronger right leg, so yes, my right stirrup will tend to get a little stretched out. So to keep them balanced, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I've told people to swap your stirrups like beginning of every month, just because when they mount up, they use the left stirrup, so it always seems to be a different length. So why not? Now, why not swap them out, and then you can, have them level all the time rather than punching holes in your stirrup leathers.
Guilty. But yes,
Okay.
it's a good idea.
Yeah. So you have some exercises here. Would you like to go over some of the exercises?
I think a great exercise for, a nice basic exercise that can help people really work on their position is the 2-stride canter pull
Okay.
to the oxer, then 2 strides afterwards.
Okay, so let's go to that. First of all, I want to show this picture here. This is you. Could you share with us what's happening in this photo?
That is at the Temecula Valley Horse Show. That is my nice young 8-year-old Grand Prix horse, High Five. We've been developing him now for the past couple years. We bought him from Emil Hendricks, Estall Hendricks, and he's just been a real fun horse to develop. He's gotten some real top ribbons in his last 5 or 6 Grand Prix, and he's just a real fun horse. It's a smart horse too. It's fun to work with him.
It doesn't look like he wants to touch that jump.
No, he jumped that. We were second in that Grand Prix. That was a great day.
And how big is that fence?
That's probably 145, that oxer.
Yeah, that's a big one. Beautiful. Lovely. And I like that you've got your mask up as well.
I tried to be very proactive with that, and I wore it on the ground when I rode. I wore it the whole time. It was just easier for me to keep it on, and I want to try to set a good example. I think we have to, we have to do the right thing so that we can keep our sport going, and wearing the mask is the right thing. So I really tried to be a good representative that way.
Yeah. Okay, so here is the exercise. This is set up for you. So if we just talk about the setup, and then we'll go to the video. Joie did give us a video that we can watch as well, and we can talk about that. But here's the setup. It's a cavaletti, right? This is a cavaletti here.
Right. The single lines are a pole or a cavaletti. And then I do probably 27 feet, 30 feet to an oxer, and make sure you can jump it both ways. So a nice little square oxer. And then again, 27 or 30 feet, depending a little bit on how big your horse's stride is. And I make it a little longer at the beginning, for people first doing it till they get the feel of it. But the idea is to have a nice rhythm and find the first pole or cavaletti. And just the horses take a nice step over that, and then 2 nice strides to your oxer, and then your recovery and your horse's rideability and your horse's balance to fit in the 2 strides on the backside. And
so the distance in front and the distance behind should be the same. It doesn't look like this drawing is done very well. It's
okay.
So 2 strides and then 2 strides after. And they should be the same, yeah?
I do put it the same because I want my riders to ride in on a normal canter rhythm. So the horses take the first 2 strides normal, and they'd make a nice jump at the oxer. Then I want my riders and my horses to be able to land and get themselves back in position, get their horses back, and fit the 2 strides in. It's quite short sometimes on the backside, but I think it's if a horse is really a greener horse or a greener rider, of course, if they're really struggling, give them the opportunity to do it correctly and learn the feel of it, and then you can make it harder by shortening it. But it's good for green horses because it teaches them just to go straight and stay on rhythm. It's good for green riders because it kind of teaches them to count a little bit. You can, when I school my Grand Prix horses, I will school this exercise sometimes just so that they have to do a little bit of the work, and I will jump that at quite a big size and at 30 feet.
So really, it's a good strengthening exercise for them as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and straightness and rhythm and all of those things that are so important.
And you also mentioned that once you get in there, you use it for riders to practice their equitation. So getting back to our first topic is what heels down, they could get in there and focus on getting their position correctly done.
Exactly. You have a nice canter in around the corner. They find the nice cavaletti, and then they can just really think about eyes up, keeping their leg position, keeping their body quiet, hands quiet and rein short, and just nicely jumping that oxer. And then again, just as you would do in the equitation, land in a good position to make that 2 strides nice and short.
So here is the exercise, somebody riding it.
So she has a nice canter, steps in, 1, 2, very nice, and then 1, 2. And you can see how short it got for that horse. And that's the thing here, it's nice. She has a very nice canter in. And this is quite lovely and a good position. And you can see she landed nice, but not maybe as effective as she needed to land. She needed to land and maybe bend the elbow just a little bit more. And right here, whoop, and just bring her body position back a little bit, maybe step down in her heel just a touch more to get that horse to fit that 2 strides a little bit better and get him back on his haunches. He just wanted to kind of skip through that a little bit. We did it a few times until he kind of got it. And that's the thing. It's not an exercise that you have to jump big, so you're not going to take a lot out of your horse, but you will teach them, and you'll get your riders, where they're really getting able to land and sit up and get their horses back.
So this is where you were talking about it in pre-show here is right here. You said that he didn't, the horse.
Yeah. He didn't set his feet square there. Yeah. He kind of skipped, and they lose power when they do that. They kind of shift to one side. So you really want them to sit down in that 2 strides, slow down, and put their feet square off the ground.
So that's one thing that can go bad, not go bad, but
one thing to work on.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So what else can happen during this exercise that people should be aware of if they're doing it with their own people, let's say?
You start it nice and easy the first time, and a little on the shorter side until the horses get the hang of it, and the kids get the hang of it, or the riders get the hang of it. It's just, don't make the jump too big, and don't make it, maybe start at 27 feet. And really the key is to have a nice canter through the corner. It's not a backwards exercise. It's canter in normal, like you would to a line, and nice stride, and then position and timing and rideability on the backside. And I mean, everyone has to have that on course, whether you're doing a equitation, the jumpers, the hunters, all horses need to be able to be adjustable, and the riders have to learn to do that as well. You jump in big to a hunter line, you've got to steady a little bit. The horses need to come back so you don't get too deep to the ox or out of the line. And in the jumpers, we all know that that's just lots of different variations of forward and back.
The transition between the longitudinal suppleness of the horse.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So if you were introducing this exercise to a new student, or somebody on a green horse, or somebody who's just coming to you for their first or developing themselves, right, how would you introduce this exercise? Would you start with the complete thing set up, or how would you set it up?
What I would do is probably on the flat work some individual cavalettis and maybe a line of cavalettis, like a 4-stride line or something like that, just so they start to get their eye working on finding the distance to the cavaletti. And then I would have the cavaletti, I would have a small jump, and I would just, once they've done the 4-stride cavaletti and things like that, maybe I go 4 or 5, make them adjust in a line where they have more room to get their horse back. And then I would just have them canter the exercise, make it a nice, simple jump in the middle. And you can do it with a vertical as well, or you make the oxer very skinny. And yeah, just have them do it a couple of times until they, find the rhythm.
Well, this horse's rhythm is fantastic, isn't it?
It does have a very nice rhythm.
It just on the landing side, the 2 strides on the landing side, you're saying that the rider needs to sit up a bit more just to make them work a little bit.
2 strides in. Yep. You need to fit that 2 strides in. So here she has a nice canter and it's very nice there. He lands nice, but he just never shortens in the second step.
Yeah.
So the most important part there was a good canter through the corner. Yep.
It's awesome. I love it. That's an excellent exercise. So lovely. The really, really good exercise. Yeah. And I could see that if you have younger people who maybe aren't as advanced as this rider, you could do similar sort of exercise with a cavaletti, 2 strides to a cavaletti, 2 strides to a cavaletti, to the same sort of thing as an intro.
Yes.
With similar sort of exercise to get the horse to come back or get the horse back before they do the last cavaletti.
Correct.
And it's a good also exercise for training the rider's eye too, is it?
I think it helps, because the idea is to canter a good corner, and you have to find a distance of the cavaletti in because it's about keeping the rhythm. And it helps your eye because you want to stay calm to the cavaletti and just have a nice 2 strides. You don't have to worry about the oxer or the vertical if you're a green rider or a green horse. The cavaletti helps set that up.
Right. Excellent exercise. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now you do have another exercise. Did you want to go over that as well, or did you want to talk about something else?
No. The other exercise we had talked about a little bit, or we're going to talk about circles and turns in your flat work and how important that is. And it is really important to have good circles and good turns, because in the hunter ring, you need to have good corners and stay on a nice rhythm. It's all about being smooth in the hunter. So the more you can stay on the same rhythm through the corner, the smoother your round is going to be. And then in the jumpers, tight turns for the time allows, tight turns for your jump offs. Those are all very important things. And, the time allows have gotten tighter in the jumper ring, and everybody rides faster now in the jump off. So practicing galloping and circles is, something everyone should do in their flat work, because you don't want to get to the show and all of a sudden have to gallop and be like, wait a minute, this is way out of my comfort zone. So we try to practice, gallop down the long side and just make a nice circle. Don't slow down a whole lot because physics is going to slow you down anyway. But, practice getting that feel of galloping a good circle and galloping out of that circle and changing directions and, galloping another circle. And, you can even do that with the hunters. You don't have to, gallop them as much, but they need to gallop and, gallop down their lines and make good turns. And even for the handies now.
I was just going to say the handy hunters, they have the length and stride or the hand gallop. I guess they do, right? They have to jump other than hand gallop. So yeah.
Well, and they'll jump into a line and they'll have to jump out of another line. So you get some rollbacks and stuff like that as well. And, like the jumpers, they, you have to be able to turn and burn, and go fast. So you need to practice it on the flat before you try to go and start doing it over, any jumps. And you can practice it with cavalettis and then move up to jumps. And then, the more advanced you get, the bigger the jump and the more difficult the turns and stuff that you practice. But you do need to practice it a bit at home. There's an exercise that I learned from Richard Keller called the wheel. And it's this exercise, and it's 4 separate jumps. And I put the base of the jumps just a foot or so apart. So it's actually, all pretty close. And you just start anywhere on the wheel on one lead. So if you wanted to start on your left lead, you just pick up any of the jumps on the left lead. You jump the little cavaletti or the jump, you land, and you go as many strides as you want. And like you're going right. So then you would make a right turn. So you go right, and then you catch the next cavaletti or jump. And then you make a nice right turn again. And you catch the next one, and you make a nice right turn again, and you catch the next one, and you can keep going. Like when I teach it or when I ride it, I go 2 or 3 times to the right, and then I'll reverse, and I'll go 2 or 3 times to the left. And you can make the circles as big as you need for the hunters.
I need help. My horse is stiff.
This is something you can just put in the middle of the ring, on a Wednesday. You don't have to jump jumps every day to train. You can jump cavalettis and do different exercises to train your horse. It's not always about jumping. And so you can make, for the jumpers, land and take 3 or 4 strides and turn back. It's also really good for the riders to learn to land and turn and look for the next jump, turn their head, and jump on a good gallop, and just be looking ahead. And for the hunters, for the handy, like we spoke, it's good for them to make a little jump and a little turn for the handy parts.
So you can make those circles, the circles and straight line as big as you like or as small as you like, depending on what kind of horse show you're going to. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
I mean, and whatever level you're going, it's, you're not going to have a beginner, jump the cavaletti, land and go 3 strides and turn, that's wouldn't work for them. But if you're wanting to practice, you have a good 1.20 meter horse and a good kid that just needs to learn how to be a little faster in a corner, it's a great exercise. And it gets harder and harder. The first 1 or 2 are okay, and then 3 is a little harder. Then by the time you turn on 4, it's a little harder. Your horse gets a little stronger, momentum gets going. Yeah. So, it can create a little bit of what happens on course as well.
So Nikki, thank you, Nikki, for giving us a comment here. I like that when she says, are you going to set that up, Nikki, and ride it today? So what kind of things, you said that when you do your first, if you're starting here, you do your first loop is okay. And then your second loop is not as good as your third loop, is not as good as your fourth loop. Well, what happens during the exercise that causes it not to be so good?
Well, I think, the longer you go on an exercise or on course or anywhere, your horse starts to build, your horse starts to get strong, can be one thing. So they can land and get stronger and make it harder to turn. The riders also can get tired, and then the leg doesn't work as well, and the eyes don't turn as quickly. And, it's a good exercise for also keeping rhythm, So the further along they go on the exercise, they start to lose their rhythm, they lose their organization. It seems simple, but it can be hard. And, when you do it bigger, it also, is challenging because the horses jump harder. You need to land and be more organized quicker, and keep, more leg around the turns. And that's also, part of the exercise. Riders have to learn to ride their corners. The corner is going to slow you down. And if you slow down, then you don't leave yourself so many options to find the distance to the jump. If you're slow, it's either slower or you're run, where if you have a nice pace, you can stay the same, you can balance a little bit, or you can go forward a little bit. So having a good corner is essential. And this helps you practice that.
Yeah. And you're saying you can do this over jumps as well?
Yes. Yeah. You can set it up with, I do verticals, nice verticals. You put a nice little ground line on it. It also helps teach the horse to follow you, land and follow your inside rein, whether you're turning left or right. So it has a lot of different value. It can do a lot of different things.
So you can use it for your novice riders, let's say, and if you have poles on the ground, teaching your young horses, you can use it with young horses to establish that conversation with them so they start to listen to you. But you can also use it for your more advanced horses as a schooling thing.
Correct. And you do it with novice rider or a young horse. You just want to be patient and make your loops big and give them time to figure it out. And, for a novice rider, it's going to come up like so fast for them. So, you make sure that you have enough room so you can make nice size turns, nice size circles, and, have them have time to get organized and make a nice turn and come back to the next one. And then the more advanced the rider and the horse, the tighter you can make everything.
Perfect. So like you say, you can set it up on a Wednesday and keep it up for the week, I guess.
You could. There's a lot of different ways you can use it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I've got another way here. Let's see. Oh, this one is the double duty thing. It's like a circle, and then instead of going straight, you change the rein and go back on yourself.
And you can do that. You can just take one pull, make a nice circle, and then yes, you can change, like do a figure 8, make a left turn, make a circle over that pull. So then you're just changing direction on your horse and really getting them to follow you.
Yeah. So this is kind of like the next kind of.
Yeah. And that would be hard because that's going to come up quick. You're changing the bend, changing the direction there. After you've done the jump or the pull, your rideability, things like that. This is, I think, a little better just to do like at the trot poles, and at the trot, just to get your horse a little more supple and following your hand a little bit and using your leg to bring them around.
Yeah, that's kind of a more, I guess, more advanced. You're always turning. You're turning left. You're turning right. And I guess too, you say that your poles are very close together in here.
You want to give them a little space, yeah. You want them tight right up against each other.
Yeah, he could maybe move them out onto a little bit more of a circle, I guess. Depending on how close you have those standards together, also makes the exercise more difficult.
Right. The closer the standards are, the tighter the turns are going to be. So, novice riders, spread them out a little bit, give them a little more room, and bring them in as your advanced riders come in.
Yeah, excellent. So, let me just go back to this one here. I'm going to just take us back here. So, so those are really good setups, and you don't have to do these particular exercises over these poles or jumps. You can set them up, and there's, as you said, there's very many different ways you can use them. How else could you use this exercise for schooling your horse? I mean, you said you could set it up and just do this wheel that you talked about. What other exercises could we do with this?
I think it would be, you could also do 2 of the jumps could be canter jumps, 2 of the jumps could be trot jumps. So if you really want to work on transitions, let's say for your equitation kids, they could canter 2 of them, or they could canter 1, make a turn back to the trot the next one, back to the canter the third one, back to the trot the fourth one, and you could work on that for the equitation kids that need to have a lot of ability to make those transitions and, have good trot jumps. If you did that with big enough circles, you could do it a little bit with the hunters to practice the handy trot jumps. I wouldn't do it a lot. I think it would get the hunters a little bit hot, a little bit wound up, so I'd be careful how much you did that with the hunters. And you could do that exercise a bit like with a young jumper. A baby jumper is going to give you one good canter jump, and then they're going to be a little bit off to the races sometimes. So then you could just drop them back into a circle, back to the trot, regroup, then practice a transition back to the canter the jump, and then, it will teach them rideability. And, just doing it both directions. You always want to try to do things both directions equally so that horses are equal on both sides. Everyone is going to have a stronger side, but your goal is to try to have your horses as equal on both sides as possible.
Excellent. So when you are teaching, what is the most common position correction that you think that you pick up on, or that you have to correct with people that come to you for riding lessons?
I think there's a couple, probably their hands. Everyone wants to get their hands a little buried, I feel sometimes, and their upper body, getting people to be able to control their upper body. The hunters, you want to just be broke over a little bit at the hips and be soft and nice and quiet. And the jumpers, you don't want to be totally vertical, but you need to be able to control the body like off the ground at the big verticals, and, have a quiet upper body, a nice independent arm. So a nice short rein with a nice bend in the elbow. And it depends on the person a little bit. If they're tall or short, if you have to work on their leg position to help them be in a strong position, or if they want to let their leg get out in front of them, that's going to put everything out of whack. It's really important you keep your leg right underneath you. So when
you said that you get riders burying their hands, how would you correct that?
Just making sure they shorten their reins a bit. Sometimes when the reins get long, they have a tendency to get back in their lap, and then they put their hands down to try to pull and things like that. Riding with a proper length of range, a nice short rein, so your elbow is in front of your body, is a good way that I like to explain it to people, that keep your elbow a little bit in front of your body. Just a nice bend in the elbow. Your hands don't have to be high, but if you just naturally put a little bend in your elbow, that would be a very nice position for your hands to be in. You can't like, if your hands are too low and a horse goes to bear down at a turn, your balance is going to be low. If you have your hands just in a nice balance, that's going to also help you balance your horses, and arms working independently.
Yes, that's another big one, isn't it? Now I forgot. Oh, I know what I want to ask you. Excellent tips on your arms. Now I'd like to know, you ride meter 45. How many years, how long did it take you to get to that level from when you started, or did you always have your eye on that level of riding?
I think I've kind of always had my eye on trying to, get to the top of the sport. When I was, young, I rode with a great trainer, and he would let me ride some of the jumpers that came in, and I was jumping meter 40 at, 12 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was fortunate that way. I've jumped the Grand Prix and stuff like that since I was 17. I jumped World Cup qualifiers from a very young age. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. So, just, jumping those big jumps, you have to have the horses, and you have to stay sharp. And you want to keep your confidence, and that's the biggest thing, is having confidence to go jump those big jumps, confident in your ground people, confident in your horse. And then it just takes time, it takes experience. You have to go do it. You have to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And every day is a new ride. Every round is a new round, and you can get something out of each round.
Yeah. Every day is a new day and a new round. I like that. Do you have any other questions or comments you'd like to talk about? Because I think
me.
Yeah.
Well,
check your notes there.
Yeah, we'll check my notes here. I really think, just if you can try to not overcomplicate things when you're teaching riders or, training horses, I think if you can just keep it pretty simple, correct, but simple, because you go into the ring and you're only going to remember a couple of the real strong things that stay in your mind. So you really have to get your basics. Do your homework at home. Go to the show prepared to show. Don't go to the show to train. Do your training at home. Do your flat work at home. Do your gymnastics with your horses at home, and practice. You have to practice a little bit. You have to scrimmage. Football players scrimmage. Basketball players scrimmage. You have to jump a little bit at home, what you're gonna jump at the horse shows. So you don't have to do that every day, but you need to do that leading up to your horse shows. But good flat work, good fit horses, and just a good consistent program is probably going to benefit you the very most.
I like what you say about a consistent program. It's really important for sure, because you can't expect to have your horse as an athlete go to the horse show after 2 weeks off, or right. Ride consistently for 5 days, and then the next 5 days go on a camping trip and expect your horse to be fit as it was before you left off. So having a consistent program is really, really important. How often do you okay. How often do you ride your competition horses, or how often are they ridden? What kind of program are they in?
We get the horses out 6 days a week, and they get out. The jumpers get out twice a day. We'll hack them, ride them in the mornings most of the time, and then they'll go either on the treadmill or the Euro walker in the afternoon. And the hunters, they'll get out twice a day, once ridden, and then once like in the turnout or for a graze or for a hand walk or something like that. But they have to be fit to, very fit horses to jump the top level, and it helps keep them sound. It helps them, stay happy. Horses like consistency, and they, if you notice, the horses always know when they're going to get fed every single day. And if you can be consistent with your riding, that's better for them. They really like routine, and they like their world to stay the same as much as possible.
Reduces their stress, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I think it does anyway. Okay, well, let's wrap it up here. Joie, thank you so much for taking the time and your morning for coming on the program with me today. And I really love the exercises you shared with us. Yeah. Do you have any final comments for people?
Well, thank you for having me. And, just remember your horse. He's his own little personality, and be patient with him at times, and be consistent. And same with yourself. If you want to, improve something, you have to work at it every day, and be patient. It will come.
Oh, thank you so much. And remember, now go use this stuff and go hug your horse. Thanks now. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.